Good morning, and thank you for joining us on a brand new edition here on Breakfast Central. It's a new week, it's exciting times, maybe not for England, but for Spain, but also exciting times for us here on Breakfast Central, and I'll share why in a bit. I am Olive Emodia. For the next 2 hours, we'll be looking at some of the biggest conversations that have happened over the course of the weekend and some of the ones that we've been following from the past week as well. So yes, I said it's exciting times for us because we're joined again here by Osaroge Ogbonwa. Good morning, Osaroge. Good to have you.
Good morning. Great to be back. And of course, welcome to our viewers this morning, Monday morning, back to the working week across Lagos, Nigeria, and of course across the nation. I took a few days off, but I'm fully back now and back to discuss some of the biggest stories happening here across the country and of course in different parts of the world also. We also have Adebola joining us with Breakfast Headlines. Good morning, Adebola.
Good morning, Olive and Osaroge. Osaroge, it's good to have you back. Welcome back.
Great to be back as well. Yeah, I just needed a couple of days off to sort some things out, but it's interesting to be back. Loads of things happened while I was away, and of course I'm looking forward to having those conversations this morning. We also almost lost one of the presidential candidates in the United States elections, and I'm sure that is one of the biggest conversations happening across the world. I was completely shocked to see that happening. Olive, what were your thoughts when you saw that story?
Well, initially I thought, to be honest, the first time I saw the clip, I thought, is this a joke or something? I would believe, or I'd like to think that this would be the first time that a U.S. presidential aspirant there's been an attempted assassination against a presidential aspirant. I'm not talking about a president, of course, we know the times past, but it was very interesting to see that, and the conspiracy theories then started to spring up, those who felt it was staged, those who thought it was real, but we saw the blood, glad to know that he's well, and the shooter has been killed. So it's interesting update to see what this will mean. The president of the free world, as it's referred to, is a very important position as they count down to elections in November. It's really dire times, and I wonder what the import of this will be, if it will affect Donald Trump's chances positively or negatively, even though some say that it would gather some form of sympathy votes.
Yeah, I agree. From what I've seen, definitely sympathy votes, definitely it would boost his ratings and those who support him. At this point, Joe Biden probably has to get pregnant, if he needs to get some screen time in the next few weeks. He needs to be pregnant or be a, black LGBTQ member or something. I don't know what he needs to do. Grow whiskers, grow a tail, or get pregnant and be ready to put to bed.
But you know what I found very interesting was the fact that after he had just escaped an assassination, he was still able, Secret Service allowed him to come out, bring out his fist and still say
in fact,
which is very wrong. And those are some of the things that people have pointed out as completely wrong, with first of all, the opportunity that the shooter was given to even take the shot, to be, to have that space open for him to, have that attempt at Donald Trump's life. Secret Service also failed in their responsibilities at protecting him even after the shot. I understand the part where they said the shooter, was down, so we maybe had reduced the threat, but it's no excuse whatsoever to still give an opportunity if there was a second shooter at Donald Trump. So those are things that they would answer by themselves. It's not in our place to analyze those things. We will have somebody join us, I believe, sometime today to talk about this, and just have a little conversation about it. But another thing I should point out, is that what we're seeing in the United States today really just shows that they are recently, in the last couple of years, no different from any third world country. They are no different from their politics, and the way that they play their politics, to, of course, the most little details that, of course, are causing United States politics. They are no different from Colombia. They're no different from Nigeria. No different from. In fact, there are a lot of third world countries that do better than they're currently doing. They just continue to have this facade with the way that their media portrays them. Yes, the living standards are definitely a lot better than third world countries, but the American politics of today, no different from the random third world country.
Absolutely,
and I'm glad that we're seeing that happen.
Absolutely, Osaroge. I mean, they have their own battles to grapple with. When it comes to gun violence, it's one issue that has ravaged USA for so long. And, like Olive rightly pointed out, we have different school of thought as to these, assassination attempts that happened, to Donald Trump. While some school of thought believe that this perhaps is staged, others think it's actually genuine, it's real, and also how this might solidify the win, the victory of Trump when he's been elected, during the elections rather. We hear Biden has cancelled his, Congress meeting regarding his party, but for Donald Trump, he's saying, you know what, he's going to go ahead. He would have that Congress meeting despite what has happened. And I feel, in a way, this would, polarize the election in such a way as to people, tilting support much more for Donald Trump. Like Olive pointed out, you see the pump in the air of his fist, which shows a sign of strength. I just feel Biden has a lot to grapple with when it comes to this election. Donald Trump on one hand is showing strength, and then Biden may need to pull his weight a lot more. Like
Osage said, it's a lot of work for Biden to find himself back in the fore of the conversation, especially because conversations around his age and the soundness of his mind have been also at the fore during these elections. But we'll keep following
age,
up.
How old difference are there? Trump and Biden, the age difference isn't so much.
Yes, it isn't, but because of how he stumbled with his words in the conversations at the election. But this is a conversation we'll have much later this morning. Let's have Adebola bring us breakfast headlines after we share with you what our top stories are.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines. I am Adebola Adeduba. Let's begin in Delta State, Nigeria, where the governor, Sheriff Oborowori, will today, July 15th, 2024, swear in the newly elected chairman of 25 local government councils in the state. And this follows Saturday's local government elections conducted by the Delta State Independent Electoral Commission for chairmen and councillors in the 25 local government areas of the state. The swearing-in ceremony will commence at 10 a.m. at the event center in Asaba. Let's tell you that Nigeria's Plateau state government has declared 3 days of mourning following the tragic collapse of St. Academy School building on Friday, which resulted in the loss of lives and several injuries. In a gesture of respect and remembrance, the government has ordered all flags within the state be flown at half-mast from July 13th to 15th. Governor Caleb Mofwang, who paid visit at the scene, extends his heartfelt condolences to the affected families and urges citizens to adhere strictly to the building codes and ethics to prevent such tragedies in the future. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu on Sunday inaugurated the reintroduction of the monthly environmental sanitation exercise campaign in Lagos State. The monthly environmental sanitation was a culture in Lagos State some years back to promote a clean and healthy environment, encourage community participation in waste management, and reduce risk of disease outbreaks. Sanwo-Olu called for the cooperation of all residents and stakeholders in making this a success. The Nigerian Bar Association section on public interest has given the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, a 7-day ultimatum to seize the issuance of the Central Motor Information System certificate. Now, this directive requires vehicle owners to register and obtain the certificate for a fee of no less than 6,000 naira. The NBA Speedo questioned the legal basis for this requirement, asserting that no law grants the Nigeria Police Force the authority to issue such certificate or licenses. They urged the Inspector General of Police to issue a directive stopping the practice nationwide and call for the shutdown of the registration website and physical registration centers, with refunds provided to those who have already paid. And still in the west of the continent, Niger's army says it has recaptured a large number of detainees who escaped from a high-security prison near the capital, Niamey, and that there are 3 of the dozens of escapees who had been killed. Recall that the jailbreak occurred on Thursday at Kautakola prison that houses many jihadist insurgents which have targeted the West African nation for years. In a statement, the army said a mutiny broke out at a prison with several dozens of inmates taking advantage of the situation to escape. Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye has expressed his willingness to address the issue of the French military presence in his country with serenity and without brutal ruptures. In an interview with Senegalese media, President Faye emphasized the importance of maintaining a calm and measured approach to the discussions. He also acknowledged the challenges facing the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, following the departure of 3 of its members. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. It's back to Osaoge and Olive. I was about to say Joe.
Thank you very much, Adebola, for bringing us the news. 2 interesting stories that have caught our eye there. I think the first one, Osaoge will take the second one, but the first one is the one about the vehicle owners that had been ordered to pay 5,375 naira for eCMR, and Nigerian police announced deadline for, I believe, July 29th. And I'm very proud of the NBA for really speaking up about this, because it just feels like every day there's a new directive that is looking for an opportunity to extort Nigerians. If I have paid all my dues, I have paid for my vehicle registration at the appropriate authorities, I wonder what law empowers the Nigerian police to then wake up one day and decide that, you know, going forward, everybody must pay this for this amount for you to be able to get another eCMR registration or whatever it is about. It just feels like we're looking for opportunities to constantly and continuously tax Nigerians. And I'm hoping that the IGP of police will listen to what the NBA president has said and issue a directive stopping the issuance of this, or come out to explain himself properly, because now is not the time for extra billings, like we say here.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more, Olive. This is not the best of times for extra expenses. We're grappling with inflation. We have soaring prices of goods and services. I mean, everything to keep money in the pockets of Nigerians, and so we don't want more expenses at this point in time. So yes, you know, right step in the right direction, you know, for the NBA to step in.
Yeah, and it's a thing that, you know, the current Nigerian government doesn't seem to understand, you know, about, you know, looking at what the people are currently dealing with, you know, with regards to economic crisis, and then understanding that there's certain times that things should not be put out. I don't know that it should be rocket science to simply understand that this is not just the time for things like this. Even if you first of all need to explain to Nigerians why the police needs to be paid, or why, you know, vehicle owners need to pay this extra 5,000 naira, you know, for the eCMR, knowing that there's every other way that your vehicle registration and all information about the vehicle and the driver or the owner of the vehicle has already been given to the relevant authorities.
Let me even read
when you try
something
to
that
get
has been
vehicle
said.
papers. So, I mean, what new information is going to be, you know, put in the eCMR?
Let me explain something
that necessitates a 5,000 naira?
And let's see if it even makes sense. It says that the transition to a digitalized system will streamline the documentation and verification processes for vehicle ownership and related transactions. Like, we don't already pay the bills that, you know, will determine your ownership. We already renew our vehicle ownership every year. I don't know why we need to pay this. Then they said it will also enhance the ability to track and recover stolen vehicles effectively and preventing the purchase of stolen vehicles by innocent buyers. I wonder why the system we have already cannot ensure that this happens. And they say, following the directives of the IGP, services such as change of ownership, change of license number, change of engine, and change of chassis and body will become seamless, as the eCMR system would ensure the validation of vehicle genuineness and ownership. I don't really understand why the system that we have already cannot ensure this, or why we need to even pay more money for this.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you know, that it's still not being answered. You know, why, first of all, like you've asked, you know, why do we need to, why do what we currently have, why isn't that enough for these things to be achieved, like they've stated? And why do you then put it, you know, as a tax on Nigerians to, of course, ensure that you do this process? So, unfortunately, I think once again we found ourselves in a place where everybody seems to be looking for ways that they would generate money for the federal government, and so every agency across the country looks for a new way, a new tax, a new bill, a new, you know, something or the other, you know, and put the bill on Nigerians to pay, which, I mean, if the current administration doesn't understand it, that this is just not the way to go about it, Nigerians are paying too much already, then I'm not sure who else would understand it. So, I mean, good thing that the NBA has put out a statement. Hopefully the, you know, police and, of course, the Nigerian government understands and, you know, suspends this new taxation or this new bill on the Nigerian driver. If not, I don't know. You know, we would definitely need more and more people to speak about this. But if there is some clarity, right, if the IG of police and if the Nigerian government has better explanations, if there's some clarity on why exactly this is very, very necessary, why what we currently have is not enough to achieve the vehicle security and whatnot that they've mentioned, then maybe we would understand. But what they've currently said just doesn't seem to be good
Hopefully
enough.
they will agree to come on the show and explain themselves better.
Yeah, hopefully. Anyway, we of course will get more information and we'll x-ray these things further sometime during this week. But let's thanks to Adebola for stopping by with those headlines. We'll see you going at 9. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we continue with breakfast headlines into our top stories.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Now, just to give a heads up, an update, we've just recently received information that Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Egbetokun, has ordered the suspension of the proposed enforcement of the eCMR, initially scheduled to commence on the 29th of July because they need to give proper information. They have also said that it's not an avenue for generating funds, but for aiding seamless digitization of the policing process. We're hoping that by this medium, we're reaching out to the Inspector General of Police to come on the show to have a proper conversation about this with us.
Before we go on, I want to also mention that I hear when he says it's not an avenue for
raising funds,
for generating funds, but normally what we expect in agencies and organizations is they say that we want to digitalize our process. This is how we used to function in 1999, but we're in 2024 now, we want to digitalize it. You don't put that tax on the user. What you do is that you add it to your budget, your annual budget for the year, that this is what we're trying to do to upgrade the process and upgrade our systems and the seamlessness with which this processes take place. You don't tax the user to digitalize your process. That is meant to be a cost for you. It's your burden. So we come and we say, I think they did at the airports. I don't know that the average Nigerian was charged different for digitalizing of the process at the airports by Olubunmi Tunjiojo. So
he didn't have to tax us to.
Yeah, and so Kayode Egbetokun's claim that this is not a revenue generating idea, I don't think a lot of people will buy that, but we'll see.
Well, we'll have them join us on the show and then we can explore the conversation even further. But now let's move away from here to Plateau State. The Director General of the National Emergency Management Agency, Zubaida Umar, says the agency will do everything within its powers to assist the victims of the Saint Academy building collapse in the Busabuji area of Jos, Plateau State. Zubaida Umar was speaking in Jos on Sunday after she visited the victims in the hospital, as well as the scene of the incident that occurred on Friday. She also paid a courtesy call on the Governor of Plateau State, Caleb Mutfwang, to commiserate with him on the tragedy that befell the state. We had Chizoba Anionwe from News Central, and she tells us more in this report.
It is the third day of this sad incident, which took the lives of 22 students of Saints Academy while they were writing their last examination for the session. The Director General of NEMA was in Jos on Sunday to see for herself the extent of damage in the school and how victims of the incident are coping in the various health facilities where they are receiving treatment. She is convinced that synergy among sister agencies will provide succor for these victims while they develop means to avert future occurrences.
What we have done today is to take a rapid assessment. Once we get back, we're going to have the report, and then we'll know how NEMA can come in terms of intervention, be it medicals, be it food, for example. NEMA is there to assist in any way. I commended the State Emergency Management Agency earlier on, and this is what we want to see from states. We need more of what we have seen in Plateau State. As I always say, disaster is local. You need community resilience. You need involvement of each and every person. NEMA comes in where the SEMA is unable to meet up. And that is the whole purpose. And what we've seen on display today is the perfect synergy between NEMA and SEMA. And that was how we're able to limit the damage, as you can see.
For Governor Caleb Mutfwang, the government of Plateau will not rest on its oars until civility is restored among citizens.
We must go into the proactive mode rather than reactive mode. We must be seen to be doing things that should put sanity and order. We must bring civility into our communities. And so, for starters, we're setting up a very high-powered committee to investigate this particular incident. And we will proceed from there to also ensure that our Ministry of Secondary Education is up and running. The Inspectorate Department runs a quick check on all the private schools for starters, because that is where there is a likelihood of breach. But we'll also run it on the public schools as well.
While the government continues to work out modalities to prevent such disasters, plans are underway to strengthen institutional capacity for a more organized society. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anyoi.
Thank you, Chizoba, for that report. Really sad story there to report that tragedy struck in just last Friday when a two-story building for a school collapsed in Plateau State, resulting in 22 deaths and 132 injuries. The incident occurred at a school with a population of 400 students, with around 200 people in the affected section.
Speaking on the development, the immediate past president of the Nigerian Institute of Building and board, and of course a board member of the Council of Registered Builders of Nigeria, Professor Yohanna Izam, called on state governments to intensify action against building collapses by formulating policies that will ensure effective construction practices and monitoring of the building environments. Now joining us is Commissioner for Information, Plateau State, Musa Ashams. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. Just quickly give us updates on the story. It's been a very, very heartbreaking seeing the number of people, of course, who have been affected by these, families, of course, who have lost children and all that. So give us updates as at this morning. Where are we with this very sad incident?
It's excruciatingly painful to go through this lane, and it's just a sign.
Mr. Ashams, are you still here with us? Okay, it would seem that we're having network challenges connecting with him, but we're hoping that we can have conversation. Okay, yes. Welcome back, Mr. Ashams. Please go ahead.
As of this morning, the number of persons hospitalized has reduced drastically, and we're praying that we'll have more discharges. And the major issue is that those at the Jos University Teaching Hospital, those are the worst hit. We have about 6 of them there. Some of them are going to be going through MRI scanning this morning to ascertain the level of the injury they have. And if you go to the Plateau State Specialist Hospital, we have only about 6 patients now. And at the Birmingham University Teaching Hospital, which is popularly called Jankwano, we have only about 4. In Ola Hospital, which hitherto we had 61 patients, we now have 12 receiving medical treatment. So as they are treated, they will be discharged. And as a government, we commiserate with families that lost loved ones. And of course, you know, this is a sad situation. Youngsters, young people and their teachers just trying to receive an education. And at the end of the day, they lost their lives. As at yesterday, the principal of the school was called by the police so that he will be interrogated, so that questions will be asked. And this morning, the owner of the school, which they say is late, but the management, there are people administering the school, they also will appear before the police so that they will give us a true picture of what has happened. Shockingly, they've not even gone to the police to report that their school has collapsed. They just zapped. And I think that is unfortunate. And as a government, we are sad that our young people lost their lives. Well, we need to use this medium to tell you that our unison was reignited by this incident. You recall that on the day that this happened, the chief imam of the Jos Central Mosque was about to be buried when the building collapsed. So the aid group of Jamaat al-Nasri Islam was among the first to bring aid. The fire service, the civil defense corps, the Nigerian army, the police, vigilante, neighborhood watch, and of course, neighboring communities also brought help. So we want to use this medium as a government to say we should continue on that lane because it's a positive one. There's a need for us to be united as a people, especially in instances like this. But the most unfortunate thing is that
I wanted to ask, I mean, you've highlighted, it's good news to hear that we're seeing a lot more people being discharged from the medical facilities. But let's talk about how we got here in the first place. Could this tragedy have been prevented? Some students report that they saw cracks on the walls. Some of the parents in their interviews have said that the school was overcrowded. So would you say that this could maybe have been avoided?
There is complacency from both ends. Well, you know, when people have this kind of tragedy, you shouldn't add salt to injury. You know, when you bring your children to school, you're supposed to check the environment where they learn. It's not just about homework, it's not just about assignments, it's not just about continuous assessments. The school environment is very, very important. There are a lot of things. You know, when you go into schooling business, you must have a tender heart. You must love humanity. You must love children. You shouldn't just be concerned about letters and numbers. You should also be concerned about the welfare of these young people and of course their teachers. It will interest you to know that the tragedy would have been bigger than this if National Examination Council had its own exams that day. That is why SS3 students were not involved. Majority of those that were involved are secondary school senior students of the SS1. And you know, we heard from reliable sources that some children even told their parents that they weren't going to go to school. And you know, the weakness is that when these things happen, you should report to constituted authority. You are the government in that vicinity, in that locality at that time. So government cannot be everywhere, but you can be at that particular position. If they had reported, government would have sealed that school, just like we have sealed it now. And we have sounded a caveat to other schools, because now with this occurrence, you hear parents say, in my child's school, there's a crack on one of the walls. In my child's school, the laboratory does not look strong. It appears it is good, it is bad. So we must not wait until tragedy strike before we take the necessary actions. You know, on the Plateau, we have the Executive Order 003. People have laced it with a lot of sentiments because people have had their ways. People have, whatever they do flies. And there's a government that wants to put the state on track, and people wanted to make a political capital out of it. We're not happy that this has happened, but it's a sign that there are a lot of things that need to be done. And the responsibility of fixing this thing lies with the Ministry of Environment, with the Jos Metropolitan Development Board, with the Plateau State Environmental Protection Sanitation Agency. And we have been synergizing, and we're hoping that a lot of more buildings will go down, and except if remedies are put in place. And you can see that the governor has instituted a body of professionals to look at these buildings. And of course, we have warned owners of institutions to also look at these things. You shouldn't be engaging quacks in building your structures. They're professionals. That is why there's a building department at the university. There's a department for town planning. There's a faculty for environmental sciences. There's a faculty of engineering. So people cannot just go to school and you allow them waste away. When you just have money, you buy road on your own, you buy cement on your own, and you become a builder.
All right,
it
Mr.
is a
Ashram, can you hold on?
and they're professional.
Yeah, can you hold on? I also want you to speak on other things with the time that we have. A few parents have also complained in one of the news reports that we've gotten that they had to pay some of the bills at the hospital. Is this true? Is the Plateau State government responsible for all the hospital bills from the people that you mentioned? You said 61 were in a certain hospital, there were 60 in another hospital. Is the Plateau State government taking care of every single one of these bills? Can you confirm that? From
the moment they were evacuated from the debris, from the rubbles, we made it clear that nobody should pay a dime. And we have synergized with the medical directors of all of these hospitals that nobody should take a dime. So I don't know where this story is coming from. Government has taken the responsibility of paying the bills of all the people affected in this unfortunate act. So if anybody says he's paying any money, I think we have to investigate further.
Okay, great. And another thing I want to know, there's the Plateau State Emergency Management Agency. Is it fully functional?
Very, very functional. You heard the DG of NEMA even giving them a thumbs up because they worked in synergy. All the emergency response units on the plateau were reactivated, were activated to swing into action. For your reporter, I think even saw them on ground. It was functional. It came to the aid of our people, and it worked well. Yesterday, when the name was
so this is what I want to. I would let you go on, but this is what I want to find out. When you say it was functional and it worked well, can you clarify how long it took for these, rescue teams to get to the site from the Plateau State Emergency Management Agency? How long did it take? Was it a 30-minute drive, 20 minutes? Was it 10 minutes maybe before they were on ground with the equipment that you said they had? Because I saw some of the equipment there. I'm not sure what that is, if that is necessarily for rescue mission. But can you clarify how long it took?
I don't know which equipment you're talking about, because we had payloaders, we had fire service
it's probably
equipment,
the payloaders I'm referring to.
We had ambulances. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
We had payloaders, we have bulldozers, we have ambulances, we have fire service equipment, and like I told you, the responses came in layers, and it was a synergy. The State Management Agency works in concert and in tandem with the National Emergency Management Agency. I don't know what is obtainable in other states, but on the Plateau, there is a cordial relationship between NEMA and SEMA, because what they do is similar. What they do is almost the same. It's just that one is national and one is in the state. And people didn't complain about the time of response. But like I told you, it's like God made the first aid group of the Jamaat al-Nasri Islam, the Nigerian army, and the police was not even far from the scene of accident. Immediately, people swung into action. For example, I arrived there, me personally, an hour after, and I met people on rescue mission. And a lot of people came, even human traffic. We had to even bring public address system to tell people to move away so that the situation does not escalate. So the response was prompt, it was quick, and it did a lot. If not for the quick response, maybe the number would have escalated.
All right. Let's also talk about the role that the government has in ensuring the quality of structures that are set up in Plateau State. We have report here that the governor has specifically asked and instructed. The government equally emphasizes the importance of adhering to established safety standards. But there's an order, the Executive Order 003. The government has urged schools and other facility owners with structural concerns to close their facilities immediately. So let's talk about the role that the government has in ensuring that there's Nigerians in Plateau State are living in quality buildings. What is the procedure for giving out approvals for building? Can you say that it is firm, it is tight, and without any form of compromise? Where would you say the blame lies? Would you say that they do structural inspections to ensure that the buildings that are being erected are in line with the approvals that have been given?
There are ethics and codes in the building industry. It will interest you to know that if you go to the Jos Metropolitan Development Board, as far back as 1940, a man applied that he was going to change his door. The laws are still extant. Nothing has happened to them. It's just that because a lot of things fly in this country, people just build when they have money. They can just go to the building material market or anywhere they can find products, and they will make a quack supervise their house. Or maybe because they've owned like 3-4 houses, they feel they are experienced enough to build houses. The Jos Metropolitan Development Board is saddled with the responsibility of checking your plan with you. When you have a plan, you bring it, and they will check the land. They will look at the soil type, whether it can carry what you want, and they will help you on all the way. But go along the line, we've had compromises here and there, and today these are the things that are happening. Now, the government in the Executive Order 003 has not isolated houses that are standing already. If you've had a house, you still have to bring the plan to JMDB so that it will be looked into with you and other professionals. Because in the JMDB, we have different units and different departments. So they are professionals. And again, if government does not have the political will to ignite some of these things, they don't happen. Like in the last 8 years, there has been civil servants have been the one manning JMDB. So sometimes the will is not there. Today we have a young man who is an architect by training, architect Hart Bankert, who is the general manager of JMDB. And there's a committee that has been set up already. Houses are being marked, because it's not just about this house that collapsed. There are buildings or communities that when you go, if it rains for 2-3 hours, it will just be flooded. And it tells you that there's something wrong with the waterways. That's why some months ago, we went to the British American area where we demolished buildings and people started listening with political undertones. We are not here to be politically correct. We're here to fix Plateau. We're here for the aesthetics of Plateau. We're here for the health of our people. We're here for the sanity of our people. We're here to protect lives. And of course, welfare and protection of life is sacrosanct as far as the governance of Nigeria is concerned. And His Excellency Barrister Caleb Manasseh is doing that.
Yeah, all right. We hear you. Before you go, can the producers, there's a video of Governor Muftuang visiting children in the hospital. Can we have that video on screen quickly, please? I would like Mr. Shams to just quickly share with us. There's a video that I saw just now. Mr. Shams, I'm sure if you can watch us, I want you to just quickly confirm what hospital exactly this is. It should show in just a few seconds. Kindly hold on. It's going to be on your screen in just a few seconds. Yeah. Can you confirm what hospital this is?
We went to 4 hospitals. I don't know which is this. Well, if it is the one with the blue paint by the gate, is the Bingham University Teaching Hospital, where the governor visited sick people, and he was also at the Our Lady of Apostle Hospital, and of course the Plateau State Specialist Hospital.
Okay. All right. Brilliant. I was trying to X-ray the quality of healthcare that these people were getting, but we probably would speak about that at a different time. Thank you very much, Musa Shams, for stopping by. We, of course, send our hearts and condolences to the people of Plateau State and those affected by this very, very sad disaster. We look forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you for having me. God bless Plateau State.
All right, let's move away from Plateau and touch on some international stories. Of course, the biggest one in the world currently, which is a very sad and frightening incident which unfolded in Butler County in Pennsylvania on Saturday, as a gunman opened fire during a rally where former President Donald Trump was speaking, narrowly, of course, missing his head. Trump was injured on his right ear and has since sought medical attention. Now, one spectator was killed and 2 others were critically injured in the attack.
The FBI identified the suspected shooter as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. The narrow escape has triggered widespread alarm, prompting numerous concerns about the adequacy of security measures in place to protect public figures, particularly Donald Trump, and the potential for future attacks. We're joined this morning by Global Affairs analyst Ejike Okpa. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me this early. It's 1 a.m. in Dallas or 1:30.
Oh, thank you so much for sacrificing your sleep for us this morning. Let's talk about the elections and this unfortunate incident, the attack against Donald Trump. I'm sure you've of course seen a number of the controversies that have started to rise up. A number of people believe that it is staged, whilst there are others who say that the facts speak for itself. I'd like you to speak to the controversies that have arisen so far, as well as how efficient you would say Secret Service was in preventing first and then tackling this security breach.
Well, in America, we love conspiracy theories. If you go back to the tape when Kennedy was assassinated, what do you say? The story has still been told. Everybody wakes up and tells you, hey, this is what they think happened. The government will give their own version, then the people will give their own version. It just never stops. Of course, some people say it's staged. I don't know why Trump will stage something, that could have killed him, because, that thing, the bullet came by behind his head. If he had turned the other way, he would have just shot out his brain, just like Kennedy was killed. The thing is very unfortunate, and it's a very sad day in America, given the fact that, you never know what somebody's gonna do. We have rights to carry gun, but what it tells us is how come the Secret Service was not able to scope, the area around where the president is going to be, because that's what they typically do. You look at every tall building or every tall structure that somebody can crawl into, and you use that space, to try to shoot somebody. But then all that investigation is ongoing, and we're going to find out. But one thing is that no matter what happens, there are going to be two sides or many sides to this story. The annoying thing is that they've tried to get Trump through the judicial system. They have succeeded in convicting him on one that he's on appeal, and now they try to take his life physically. This is not the America that we know of. This is not the America we want. But hey, people do stuff in this country, and it's been going on since America was formed as a nation. So this is not new. It just happens that Trump has been a lightning rod, and the Democrats have been trying to get him anywhere they can. But hey, God is not finished with him. So that's why he's still standing.
Yeah, but I mean, what does this also say about where American politics is today? Because I mentioned earlier that some of the things that I've seen lately with the campaign and with Donald Trump, and generally with the decisions that they've made, foreign policy decisions that they've made in the last long while, it almost looks like, America is no different from any third world country, in reality, especially with the kind of politics that they've been playing. And of course, now we're talking about an assassination attempt at a presidential candidate. You would almost not hear of this type of thing, except you're talking about, some really, really low-rated third world country. So, I mean, what does this say about where America has gotten in maybe the last decade?
Well, I mean, I think I understand your sentiment, but if you go back to the history of America, this is not new. In fact, there was a time up until 1804, the vice president at the time, Aaron Burr, and then Hamilton, who was the secretary of the Treasury, they settled their own dispute. How did they do it? They what they call dueling. So they went over there, pulled down, and then Hamilton was killed. So, I mean, that's what, 1804. So when you're talking about American politics, I think what is happening now is you have an instant, social media has made it an instant reporting. You can say this, but, I've lived here for 37 years. I ran for office. I can tell you things Americans do. So this is not new, but again, it's because of Trump. Trump is somebody who is very controversial. He says things that most established politicians won't say. So there are people who want to take him out. Every American president has always had an attempt on their life. It's just that we see this one, in real life. When Reagan was shot, he didn't die. So there's always an attempt. When Bush was president, he went to Iran, somebody threw shoe at him. So it's not a third world, it's just an American way of doing things. We are very vocal, when we disagree sometimes, some people want to take that disagreement to the extent that you saw yesterday. But
I'm sorry, I don't necessarily agree with, every American president has had an attempt on that. Yes, Ronald Reagan did. I don't remember in the last 10, 15 years we've seen, an attempt on the president's life. Barack Obama didn't have an attempt on his life. I don't think Joe Biden has had an attempt on his life. The George Bush example that you gave wasn't necessarily an attempt on his life.
You don't live in this country. If you go, you don't live in this country. If you want to do an open record request, you can go to Freedom of Information and request, and they will tell you. Mm-hmm. Okay, they will tell you attempts. The thing is that some of it are public, we see it, some of it are not. Why do they have Secret Service? Why is it that every American president, when they go somewhere, there's an advanced team and there's a team after? I've had dinner with Obama. I know what it was to go around it, and there were people waiting around to see an opportunity. So what I'm saying is that during a campaign like this, because of the controversy that Trump has had, through the judicial system that is ongoing, and now the physical attempt on his life, it sort of raises questions. What's going on? Is this, like some people are saying, is it, staged? Is it commissioned? We don't know until the investigation is done. So every American president, let me even tell you, when Obama, when Bush was leaving office, that's when they changed the Secret Service for life for president. But because Bush was the president who went to war, Obama renewed it for life. if Obama hadn't renewed that, it would have been 10 years after you leave office, you will not get Secret Service. But now it has gone back to permanent. So the people are always looking to harm an American president, whether they leave office or till they die. Even what is his name, Carter, who has been out of office, he still has Secret Service. So the point is, there are some of it that is public, you see it, acting out, real time, and then there's some of it that they don't tell you. But if you want to know, there are books out there written that will tell you how many times attempts have been made on American president. Even in presidential candidates, because that's once you become a presidential candidate, you get Secret Service.
Okay, we want to try and maximize the limited time we have for the conversation. So I want us to move away from, the attack and look at what the implication might be. We've seen in other countries, for example, in Brazil, Brazil's former president, Bolsonaro, we saw that the disturbing incident led to, him being ushered into power. Do you see that similar situation happening here? Do you foresee sympathy votes that would maybe lead Donald Trump into power?
Well, with the polls are what the polls are. There's some polls say there is a tie, some polls say that Trump is leaving. What is happening with this incident? Trump has gotten more money. Anytime things like this, like when he was indicted, his fundraising went through the roof. Now there's a physical attempt, more money has flowing in. But at the end of the day, Americans want to see a difference, from what we've seen 3.5 years of Biden to now, Trump likely coming back in in January. So the thing is, we don't know until November 5th when we go to vote. Whether this, 3 months before election is an eternity in American politics. Who knows what else is going to happen? This week, the Republicans are going to have their nomination, and of course Trump is going to get the nomination. Then the Democrats are going to have. Is Biden going to be the nominee? There's a push or a call for him to step down. Is he going to do it? We don't know. So it's like a bunch of balls in the air. Which one are you going to catch? The one we're going to catch, we know we are looking forward to is November 5th, and that's when Americans will vote. And we'll see whether, that's, sympathy. Yeah. Yes, every politician wants a sympathy vote, because you have your base, and then you want people that can be, persuaded because of one incident, and then they come on your side.
Quickly, if you could advise the Democrats at this point, would you ask Joe Biden to step down?
Hey, look at him physically and look at him mentally. I think if you're going to be a president, you should be one that will inspire your whole country. Nobody should have a president that when they step out to speak on behalf of the country, they look the way Biden is looking. So that's a requirement for mental acuity. At the same time, there's a desire for a physical appearance. Because if you can't have the two, then what do you want people to do? Especially, we've had a president who was on a wheelchair. I live in Texas. Our governor is in a wheelchair, and he's been in a wheelchair since he was 26 years old. Yeah. But I feel he's still able to get the job done. So we want people to get the job done. If I was in the Democratic Party, I would tell Biden, step aside, finish your term, and let somebody else carry the baton and see if they will beat Trump come November.
Well, only time will tell, from what it seems. Like I said earlier, I feel like, the United States has fallen with regards to the kind of politics that it is currently playing. It always models itself as a country that everyone should look at, and of course try to be like with its democracy and with its politics, but I don't think that, lately it has done very well. I don't know if you could also speak on when you see that the United States of America has Joe Biden, who is stuttering and stammering and, almost doesn't know where he is most of the time, and Donald Trump as their two leading candidates. Does that also tell you something about where the United States is currently?
Well, age is not the problem. It's health. There are people who are 50-something or 40-something who may have, issue of memory loss or dementia. But in the case of Biden, like you said, you could see him when he's speaking. He looks, you can look at his facial expression and see that he's agonizing. And then physically, if you tell Biden, hey, go walk for 100 yards and you could see that step is going to be one that is staggering, or probably don't even know where it's going to go. So, the two people, nobody stops them. When Trump announced, so many other Republicans announced. In the Democratic Party, they wouldn't even let anybody announce. Kennedy, who was doing it, they shut him out, and so they just wanted Biden to be there. And Biden is displaying Biden. This is not new. It's just that it's becoming more visible, and people are saying it. The debate was just one example because they thought he was going to perform better than what he did. So America, again, is not a democracy. America is a republic. If you look at the Constitution, the word democracy was never. We have a democratic way of electing. And then if you look at the way we elect our president, it's not even by majority, it's by electoral college. So there are so many things other people say America is this, America is that. If you really get into it, America is not what majority of the people who say it is. It's a different type of country. No country in the world can emulate American form of government because our presidents don't run the country. Our presidents have the biggest microphone. At the end of the day, every politics is local, and that is why the local term is what affects your water supply, your power, your road, your school, and the presidents don't have any say in that. We just want somebody who has a bigger microphone so when they speak about America to convey that power, that influence that America has been able to do. And then let me tell you, there's a book if you want to go look at America to see, just going back to, it's called War of Two. When you read that book, you will begin to have some sort of understanding about how this is a very complex country. There are 50 states. Not that there are 50 states, but there are 50 nations. Just to tell you how different they are.
All right. Brilliant analysis. In the next 3 months, of course, we'll know how things turn out. There's definitely likely going to be more drama between now and the elections. But we'd like to speak with you again. Thanks for stopping by.
Hey, I'll be in Lagos next week. Hopefully I'll stop by the studio and say hello.
All right, brilliant.
Thank you, guys.
All right, away from the United States, back to Nigeria. Just to quickly share with you, the NNPC's investment plans seem to have gone up in smoke. The Chief Executive Officer of Dangote Refineries, Aliko Dangote, has disclosed that the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, was unable to meet its target to own 20% stake in the oil-producing company, Dangote Refineries. In 2021, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation planned to raise $2.7 billion to purchase a 20% stake in Dangote Refinery. They borrowed $1.3 billion, but only paid enough for 7.2% stake as at the deadline in June. This development jeopardizes Nigeria's strategy to collaborate with private oil companies to secure and safeguard the nation's energy security. And these are some of the, of course, big discussions that are going on across Nigeria today. Why did the NNPC either fail to meet up with their 20% stake, or why did they back out? There's no clarity as to whether they backed out or they simply just failed. I remember that not long ago they took a loan from the Lekki Refinery Financing Group, about $1 billion loan. That, of course, was meant to be paid back with crude oil, about 30,000 barrels of crude oil every month, I believe, or so. And then, of course, the balance of $1.76 billion for the Dangote Refineries, 20% was meant to be paid with 300,000 barrels per day. But, if you put all of these together, and this is one of the things that I think I noticed earlier, if you put all of these together, 30 or 35,000 barrels to the Lekki financing, and then 300,000 barrels to Dangote, then I think there's also an Afri-Exim 40,000 barrels, I believe. If I get the figures wrong, please forgive me. 40 or more of 1,000 barrels that are also meant to be given from the NNPC. If you pull all of it together, it's about 400, maybe 420, 440,000 barrels of crude oil. And it doesn't make any sense, for the NNPC to be that indebted in crude oil while still trying to meet up with Nigeria's crude oil figures and our OPEC figures. So there's obviously been a lot of crisis, with the whole situation with the NNPC and its commitments. And it's not surprising to see that they are not able to meet up a 20% stake in the Dangote Refinery. But more questions will have to be asked, and I believe that the National Assembly at this point should be calling the NNPC to answer these questions and provide some clarity as to where we are What happened to the initial agreement? Why couldn't you meet up with the initial agreement? Well, what are we going to be doing now with the crude oil commitments that the NNPC has?
And if you're just joining us, welcome back. You missed a huge chunk of the conversation this morning, but not to worry, we have you covered with the headlines as we review what the pages are saying. And joining us to review the front pages of the newspapers is the public affairs analyst. You see him here often, Sheson Okwade. Good morning, thank you for joining us, and happy birthday.
Yeah, good morning, Olive. Good morning, Osag, and good morning to our viewers. Great to start the week here on News Central.
Good to have you here.
It's how you conveniently ignore the happy birthday, but let's proceed with the good news that we have.
I reserve my comment.
Let's get into the papers this morning. We begin with the Daily Independent newspaper. On the front page of the Daily Independent, the big story this morning is harsh environment slows telcos investment, impacts severe quality. Rivers Assembly crisis. PDP denies filing appeal challenging High Court order. Nobody can stop Benue governor from doing 2 terms. Is that okay? All right. Jemade vows 2027. Modo charges PDP to place premium on internal democracy. Court orders ministry to disclose details of pact between federal government and X. While Lagos may reinstate monthly environmental sanitation by Sanwo-Olu. I like it. NNPC receives complaint from federal government against Daily Trust newspaper. And Spain defeats England 2-1 to win Euro 2024 final. If England had won, we'll have not heard word yesterday, but my heart is with England. The Cup has gone on vacation for a while, or the trophy has gone on vacation. Dangote Refinery, Dangote Fertilizer to list on stock market next year. That's interesting. Carlos release will separate genuine agitators from criminals. LP lawmakers tell Tinubu. That's all on the Daily Independent. Let's move over to the Vanguard newspaper.
Well, there's not very many stories on the Vanguard from what I see, but let's quickly share. It says here, consumer spending down as Nigeria remains gloomy on economy. Okay, I think we'll take the Daily Trust instead. It says here, 6 years after Abuja-Kaduna Road project uncompleted, myriad of potholes causing vehicle crashes. Again, 6 years after Abuja-Kaduna Road project uncompleted. I'm sure that everyone's going to mention the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, an investment we're putting there when we have uncompleted road projects across the country. Commuters demand urgent government action to be completed in 12 months, says Works Minister. Samoa report, Ombudsman writes Daily Trust, asks for response. NNPC Limited now owns only 7.2% of Dangote Refinery, says Aliko Dangote. And also, victim narrates ordeal after school and residential building collapse in Jos and Abuja. We can also see on the screens there, or rather the pictures there, Honorable Minister of Health, Professor Mohamed Ali Pate, visiting Bayes University Hospital with the Chancellor of the Bayes University, Senator Dati Baba Ahmed, and a few others checking on an admitted student. These are the stories on the Daily Trust newspapers this morning. Very interesting ones. I'm not sure where we should start from. Mr. Okwade, I think you probably should start from the NNPC story. Owning just 7.2% of the Dangote Refinery. I think the initial agreement was they were going to own 20%, but for some reason they failed to meet up with that.
Thank you very much. The fact remains that when you look at some of the things that we do, inconsistency in some of our plans, everybody's expectation was that as a nation, having such stake will give us maybe a good ride for us to do. But it's good that the chairman of Dangote group has come to say only 7.2%. So the noise on the part of we the citizens to say, we have large stake in Dangote, we can do this, we can do that, would definitely be relieved. But beyond that, our words have always been, can we have more enabling environment for more of this private-public partnership? Even if it is 7%, I don't take it for far, but let those who understand the business come out, carry it, and let government bring out policies that would definitely, assist in making sure that these companies survive some of those things. You and I understand what Dangote Refinery has faced with the IOCs and other stakeholders, why we cannot actually have what is actually expected. You know, it was celebration when this project started, that with the advent of Dangote Refinery, we have fuel at a cheaper rate and the likes. But here we are today, we're not having that. We want a situation where government can be consistent with their policy, create the enabling environment, so that it won't be only Dangote. We can have 3, 4, 5, you know, investors, you know, setting up this kind of a thing. Take it out of the hands of the government, and possibly those so-called dilapidated refineries can be pushed to some of these business owners who understand the dynamics of business to grow it, so that we can have, you know, some of those things functioning. Because I keep asking myself, those things are wasting away there, and we keep having turnaround maintenance costs, people's salary are paid for non-functioning refinery. Give it to the hands of business, commercial people who can work on it, have stake in it, to possibly even 5-7%, so that we can have some of those things functioning, and you can give employment opportunity to people and possibly crash the price of that particular, because it has a great impact in the economy of the nation. The issue of energy cost cut across, whether you want to fuel, whether your vehicle for logistics, you want to fuel your generator for other things, it plays a key role. And that's why we'll keep saying that let government work in such a way that we can crash down the price for us to really move on, and businesses can survive the more.
But for further clarity, how much of a problem is it, you know, that Dangote himself, you know, is not able to get necessary crude oil supply from the NNPC and from, you know, Nigeria itself? Shouldn't that be a major problem, you know, that the government should be embarrassed about?
Well, they are not embarrassed about it, because some of us have said it, that this administration is more of revenue generation than the welfare of the citizen. But some of us have said it, that I think area to go is, if you are selling out, you have a product, you're selling it out to generate revenue to take care of your family. And somebody is saying that, no, as internally, you can use that raw material that you have, processed it, and they get more revenue. I think if it's for us to reduce our quota to OPEC and satisfy our needs internally, it's more viable to me, because it is when you grow the economy to grow the more, you have more revenue. And that's why the diversification we've been talking about can be, but situation where the major source of what you call your income is nosediving, and you have an organization that can even overblow it. By the time Dangote Refinery succeed, what you see more is to see other organizations trying to venture into it because of the support that they get from the government. But here we are, we'll prefer to even give that out to generate revenue, and the revenue we are generating is not even taking care of the welfare of the citizen. It's quite illogical, but that's what the part that the government has tried to throw, which we will continue to say, let's have a rethink about that. Let's supply more than giving out to generate revenue, and be able to satisfy the yearnings and the needs of our people by forcing the price of that particular product down across board. And above all, other byproducts that you will get from it can be an input into other industries that we need. You can look at bitumen, look at grease, look at fertilizer, all the byproducts which are so enormous that as we speak, when we import some of this product, we don't account for it. And I will always tell you that if you look at the statistics of what is to be generated from those byproducts, you know that we are losing a lot by not concentrating internally.
All right, let's move on to another conversation. Let's bring back the Daily Independent newspaper. On the front page of the Daily Independent, we can see that story there. It says, why Lagos may reinstate monthly environmental sanitation by Sanwo-Olu. And I want us to talk about this and see why exactly was the monthly sanitation. I know we used to do it before, where I don't know if it's first Thursday or last Thursday.
No, last Saturday.
Last Saturday of the month, where everyone will come out and clean their gutters. So I think the questions will be, one, Why was it stopped before? Do we have an idea why? 2, how efficient was it back in the day? And 3, how has our current reality morphed to be able to accommodate everyone coming out to clean the environment? Now, just to mention that, if you're watching and you like to weigh in on the conversation, we want to hear your thoughts on this conversation as well. Please call the numbers on your TV screen. The numbers to call will be scrolling on your screen. You can call us and have the conversation with us. Please go ahead.
Yeah, for the monthly sanitation, you know, Ebmo Onoguru, SAN, I think, took Lagos State government to court saying it's infringing on the fundamental human right for free movement. You know, then it used to be between 7 and 10, last Saturday of the month. Nobody goes anywhere. You stay indoor, clean your environment, and make that happen. But he felt then that when you come out at that particular time, people picked you up and you pay penalty. So he took them to court and he won the case. And on that premise, they stopped that environmental sanitation. But I know we have the one that the market carries out every Thursdays, you know. But I think it's important that we reinstate that act. Not just that alone. When you look at some of those things that we used to do then, there is this thing that we have the health officers, the Yorubas call them wole wole. They go inside and check activities. Those that do not have the normal septic disposal where you make your excretion come out, they penalize you, check some of those things. But we have actually moved away from that area, and I think it's something we need to reinstate. Sincerely speaking, when you look at the challenges we are faced with, people dumping refuse indiscriminately, and the way they are actually, we tend to do more other things, leaving the health side, which those days everybody knows. And one thing that we saw then that this thing brought is people that do not stay at home, at least between that 7 and 10, you can see them around as neighbors, get reunited.
Who
and
did I
do so
tell them
many
that I
things.
want to reunite with my neighbors?
You need to reunite.
Why
because
must I reunite?
it's fundamental.
See,
some people are owing so much, you don't see them when they are to pay their bills, NEPA bills,
but
and
that's
some
not.
other thing.
I'm
take
looking
it
at,
up.
and I want us to go back to the conversation about rights, you know,
Yeah.
which you had earlier talked about.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, if they ask me to come out every Saturday to come and start cleaning my street,
It's not every Saturday, just one Saturday in a month.
I have somebody who comes to clean my house. I pay someone to clean my house. Why do I need to come and then Saturday I'm supposed to be resting? I'll come
That's
and be
because
cleaning
you
the
have that
streets.
privilege, you have that opportunity to pay someone.
Is there not-
For those that do not have, it's an opportunity for them to stay back and do that
Is it going
because
to
of
become, my own is it going to become mandatory?
then it was, but we can have the human face to it, where we can say, if we understand you as elites, you can carry it out, and we can check that those things are done properly, no problem. But we should always put a level playing ground where everybody will have that opportunity. If not for anything, we understand it's your right to move at any point in time. Use that 3 hours, even though you are paying someone to take care of your house. Use it to rest. We want you to take that time to rest, you know. But the fact remains that for other people who do not have that privilege that you have of paying someone to do that, and all they do is that all they work 7 days, they're out there without paying attention into cleaning their environment and making things to work. We should give them that leverage for them to carry those things out. And I think there's another area the government need to work on it. Those days, you know, we introduced this PSP where they can move
what happened to
those
PSP.
areas. But we've seen instances where they are not actually working the way they used to work before. Heaps of debits, you know, areas where they are not supposed to be. I think we should.
So isn't it, you know, taking the government's responsibility from the
Exactly what I'm
government and
asking.
giving it to the citizens?
But before you respond to that, we have a call from Shuaib. Good morning. Thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Good morning.
Oh, it does seem that we've lost that call. And that's a valid question, which is what I was trying to drive at all the while. Like, is it my responsibility? Okay, we still have our caller. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning. Yes.
We don't seem to be able to hear you in the studio. Shuaib, can you please speak up?
I want to quickly speak on the
Unfortunately.
issue of new.
Yeah, well, you can say that we are taking off the responsibility of the government, but it's check and balances. We have to do our part, they have to do their part, and that's why we're calling them out. But you know, most of the time when you sit back on that last Saturday of the month. Even it has become a culture in some estate. That's when they try to have their normal meetings where they can speak how to actually make things in terms of security, development in the area, where everybody will come together and have discussion. That is still operational now because people have actually turned it to be. But I feel that we should speak more in the aspect where the government are not doing it right. And that's to say that can we improve more in the collection of refuse. And those days we always have this screen post and penalty where when you drop all these debits and debts where you're not supposed to drop it, you have people that will apprehend you, punish you, either to do community work or to pay fines or levy, and that on its own, make people to do the right thing, dispose what they are supposed to dispose of at the right location and at the right place where it's supposed to be.
For me, it really just sounds like being in 2024 but going back to 1997.
Exactly.
Yeah, well,
it doesn't sound like a society that is developing. Doesn't sound like a society that is being progressive. And once again, it doesn't sound like the government understands that there are certain things that there is responsibility and you shouldn't push that back to the citizens. No matter how much of the moral compass I want to use
Yes.
everybody should clean their environment. I get it. Yeah, you should clean your environment, no doubt. But there's a reason people pay taxes. And one of the things that government should do, with these taxes is ensure that the environment is clean. It's not going to be the citizens' responsibility. Morally, yes. But there's still that government responsibility that should exist. And if Lagos is a mega city, the Lagos of Africa, there are certain things that you shouldn't be hearing about that citizens are still being forced to do or cajoled to do once a month. Everybody should clean their environment. There should be I hate to use the word value chain, but I don't think that's what it is. But there should be a process through which refuse is collected, and it is maybe recycled if we have that process in Lagos, but it is collected in a certain place. It is moved from that place to the main place where there's a refuse dump in Lagos, or main locations where the refuse dump in Lagos. But because we don't have those things in place, we don't have those who are sweeping the streets, the trucks that come to pick them up from the junction or from move them to because we don't have all of that fully functional. That's why we then say, oh, people should clean their streets. And I know the reason that this is happening because of that rainfall
and the person who was
that created chaos in Lagos. For I think 2 Tuesdays ago, 3 Tuesdays ago.
And because there was also the video of the family that were throwing trash into the drain. And Loma can then take it upon themselves to say that areas and communities where these basic things are flouted, these basic rules are flouted, they will be reprimanded, they will be punished. That's
who do you know is responsible for it?
Osag, I would say I'm not speaking for Lagos State government, but I know for the Loma, they've actually taken certain steps in making sure that some of those things are actually available. When you go to areas, you see, I think the dichotomy between the high and the lower trodden people, it's the major problem where we have here. I know several states where you go to today, they have different bins where they collect refugees, where you drop your paper here, you drop this here, and they come, you pay, and they pick it up. We have some areas that you cannot see heaps of some of those problems. That's why I said, if not that we just need to have a level playing ground for everyone. There are some places you will go to, the environment is clean because they can afford certain, fee being imposed by the government of them to make those things work. No, but there are certain people that cannot, and I think that's where I will support you to say government, because the essence of paying taxes is for us to being a level playing ground. If some people are paying so much to make those things available, then you can use those funds generated from that area to make sure that you take care of those people that you know that they will not do it, and reintroduce those aspects in those areas where those things have been flouted for them to do it properly. But I know that they are actually doing a lot in terms of.
And I will give them kudos. I don't take away any kudos that you give to Loma for the work that they are doing. Absolutely, they should be celebrated.
But it's just that you can't have it all. There are some areas that give it to it. The people there prefer to do things that are against the policy of this, and I think those are areas they need to concentrate.
If you set up a government, and let me just also mention that this should even be a local government thing. It's not. It should.
And maybe with the autonomy we are having now.
Yes, should No, it's not. I mean, the autonomy is there, but the autonomy is financial autonomy. I'm talking about the ability of the local government to fully function as a local government.
The
For
reason why
everyone
they are
to
not
know-
functioning is because they claim that they don't have
So,
funds.
well, at least now they
but
have
now that they have
funds, so we can
those
hope to
things
see
can now,
that.
co-opt them back. Even those things I said, the wole of a thing, the health officers, are the functions of the local government area. They go in there because they are the grassroots people, and that's why we're saying that this autonomy we're talking of, the financial autonomy, which we empower the state. Because part of the things we're saying now is the local government should brace up. We will not ask questions because all the functions that they were supposed to carry out before now they were not doing.
Right.
We can now revisit it because now they have that autonomy and they have the finance to carry those things out, and we can now address, because some of these clearing of drainages should be their responsibility.
Absolutely.
And not
Okay.
that of the state on their
Let's
own.
hear from our caller. Shaibu has called back. Thank you very much for calling back. Please go ahead with your comment.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, talking about the front pages and all that is happening in the country. I was trying to say the other time that this issue of trying to address food crisis, herders, farmers, clashes, I think is a welcome development, and if we go a long way, it will at least help in reducing the space at which herders and farmers clash, and we have food sufficiency. So the Ministry of Livestock that is created, I don't know. I will have feel that it should be under Ministry of Agriculture. But as it is, government knows what best it should be. And looking at the Orosanios report, so to speak, I don't know, we are trying to say we are reducing the numbers of ministries and agencies, and we are creating another one. As I speak to you, in an attempt to even create agencies, is causing some people like they don't even know where to belong. I, for example, work in a federal government parastatus, which perhaps they have said that they will be a kind of, will be self-funding, and in my organization is not even a revenue generating agency. The organization itself is Liberian Association Council of Nigeria, and they've been removed from budget funding, and from January to date, I can speak to you that we've been battling with unable to pay people's salaries. They've not paid us salaries from January to date. And yet, we are talking about merger in such a way that people will not lose their jobs and their lives. And we've engaged the Ministry of Education and who are our supervisory body, and they've not been able to address this issue. So I believe there is nowhere in public service rules where pensionable gazetted federal government workers will one day, just in the name of self-funding, will not be earning salary. Some of the children now, they cannot pay school fees from January then. Some, they are even about being evicted from home. So I think some of these things should be looked into. You shouldn't say you are trying to merge agency and you make Nigerians to suffer more. Those who are dependent, who are dependents at home, should not be made to be dependent. So the government should look at some of these things so that there will be more problems when the economic is vital.
Thank you very much for your contribution. That's really sad to hear that the agencies have people who haven't been paid from since January. This is the 7th month in the year. It's sad.
It's quite sad.
And I'm hoping that we can revisit the conversation again in another, at a later date.
Yep.
But thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you very much, Mr. Okwande, for joining us this morning.
It's a great pleasure to start the week with you.
All right. We're going to break. When we come back, which way Nigeria comes up next?
Now, about a week ago, the news, of course, across Nigeria, reports carried the story of a man who had climbed a broadcast mast in Federal Capital Territory as his way of protesting the current hardship in the country. Now, after a short while of convincing, he eventually did come down and was subsequently arrested by the police. The police then went on to state that he will be sent for mental evaluation and likely charged with attempted suicide. The police public relations officer, SP Josephine Ade, on Tuesday said that Yusuf will be charged to court for attempted suicide, disturbance of public peace, and incitement if found to be mentally stable after the evaluation. Now, according to reports, the person in question was a middle-aged man from Borno State named Shaibu Alhaji Yusuf. Now, I understand very well the fact that Nigeria isn't the only country that criminalizes attempted suicide, and so the deliberations about changing those laws are welcome anytime. We can have them at a different time. That's not our focus this morning. My views this morning are that we should use this very sad incident of this young Nigerian as a mirror to see the severe frustration of the average Nigerian today. Now, further investigations will show if this was a suicide attempt or just a sign of desperation and a way to get the government's attention to his frustrations. But whichever of those it might be, it is a clear sign that one after the other, many Nigerians are reaching a breaking point, a point where their frustration hits levels they have never experienced. And the problem is, not all of them would consider suicide or protesting by climbing a mast. Some Nigerians may consider other means, and the number of these people is growing every minute across our country. It's a good time to tell the current administration that your calls for Nigerians to be patient doesn't seem to be working. Your statements asking that Nigerians persevere for a little while doesn't seem to be very convincing to the average Nigerian. From north to south, from east to west, people are hungry. People are frustrated. Families are breaking apart. Businesses are crumbling. And these promises and statements about perseverance are not connecting with the people. And that's why we find this young man deciding to climb a broadcast mast. Now, Nigerians will persevere if they believed the government was being honest. They will hold on and persevere if they believed in the steps that the government had taken so far. They would hold on if the government and its members simply lived by example. But we seem to be seeing the exact opposite. They say government spending 21 billion naira on one house for the vice president. The same government is creating a Ministry of Livestock while there is already a Ministry of Agriculture. Nigerians can't have faith and persevere when government's words and actions seem to be completely opposite. And that's the problem. You say that you're working tirelessly to fix our great country, and so Nigerians should again persevere. But for what it seems, the Nigerian people don't believe you. Mostly because your actions seem to greatly betray a call for perseverance. And that's why we have found in incidents like this, where this young man decides that out of his frustration, the best thing for him to do is to climb that broadcast mast. So again, to the Nigerian government, yes, you might tell Nigerians to persevere, but Nigerians do not seem to believe in your words because your actions betray those words. Good morning, Nigerians.
"2023 was not a financially tough year after all, especially for Nigeria's public officials. A whopping 721 billion naira, that's approximately $1.26 billion in cash bribes, was paid to public officials in 2023, according to a recent National Bureau of Statistics survey. The report details sectors where the act of bribery is dominant. It revealed an average cash bribe paid was 8,284 million naira, which is 8,284, totaling 87 million bribes, equivalent of 0.8 bribes per adult.
Now, to combat corruption effectively, the NBS urges the government to focus on institutions and public officials that directly impact citizens' daily lives to be able to promote transparency and accountability in Nigeria. Joining us is Secretary General, Follow the Money International, Mukhtar Modibo. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
Okay. Interesting, seeing the figures, 721 billion naira in just bribes in 2023. Tell us first of all about how, this analysis, is done. How does the NBS tell and see who is taking bribes across Nigeria?
Okay, so the thing is, the first thing is to congratulate NBS for doing that, and as well as their funders for even coming with an idea to do something like that. But I think there are some questions that we need to ask ourselves about and then ask NBS. One, what are the methodologies of this particular report? Who are the respondents, right? And then why is it that the report is not on their website for people to go and see? And then, why haven't they published the methodology? And then if you look at what the report says, they look at some certain sectors of the public service. What are the others doing? What are the information from the others? Like, one of the things that will amaze you, or one of the things that is frightening with the way Nigeria is going, is the fact that the first on the list is justices and magistrates, and they have collected as low as 31,000, followed by the custom or immigration, which is 17,800, which, if you look at the difference, is so big. And in that list, there are people like doctors and midwives, there are people like local government officials, which just got some level of autonomy to get their money straight from the federal government. One of the questions is, what of the legitimacy of these people? Who handles the election of these people and what have you? So there are a lot of questions, some key sectors to really focus on, I'm thinking, is the oil and gas sector, the mining, the issue of other justices, not just the judges and the magistrate. And another thing that is baffling is even doctors and nurses, or let me say midwives, are part of the list. So there are a lot of questions to that conversation, in as much as it's a good intent for people to understand how we pay bribe. And if you look at the number of people that are the indicates of the people that are respondents are largely, who are the people that got contact with public officials and they were asked to pay bribe, those that paid and those that declined. This is what we're merging, and this is just for a period of 12 months, right? So the question remains, as the Nigerian that is looking at fighting corruption, who are the respondents, right? Then what are the methodologies that is being followed for this? What's the other public sector, like the agricultural sector, procurement in these ministries, right? And other contracting and what have you, have been something that we've been questioning about. So what of those sector?
I mean, it's interesting, like you've mentioned, it's important that we have some level of clarity as to the modalities that were implemented in conducting this survey. Also understanding what's direct bribe and indirect, because I've seen a part of the report stated about, talked about direct bribe and indirect bribe. I wanted to ask if you had any surprises looking at the report, and from your perspective, having looked at the report, what would you say are some of the key things it tells us about where we are as a nation? I'm seeing here that the report said that about 76% of those who rejected bribes are in the Northwest, the highest across the geopolitical zones. There's also the report about women being less exposed to bribery than men. The report said that 39% of men who engaged with public officials either paid bribe or asked to pay but declined. But the figure for women was significantly lower. So would you say that, what would you say were maybe any surprises that jumped at you? And what are the key takeaways you would say you've picked up from this to tell us about where we are as a nation?
So where we are as a nation, it's alarming. For the women issues, and then the women indicates, the point is women are not largely being asked to pay money bribe, but they are being asked to pay another thing as a bribe, which is a thing that we need to also maybe investigate and see, because a lot of women, if you ask them, it's not money bribe they're being asked. It's either we've seen a lot of cases around that issue of sex for grade, sex for job, sex for opportunities and what have you. These are things that are happening, right? And when it comes to issues of surprises, it's not surprising. The only surprising thing here is the fact that oil and gas, the mining sector in the northwestern part of the country, like in Zamfara, for instance, we've been having the issue of banditry, kidnapping and what have you. And the main issue has always been the issue of mining. There are a lot of gold in Zamfara and mining activities are going on. A lot of arrests of even foreign individuals have been conducted and being charged to court. So what I'm saying is, these are things, this is the only thing that is surprising me. The oil and gas sector has not been tampered with. The mining sector has not been tampered with. And then the issue of local representative, local government representative, as well as issues of police, right? And then the land registry officers that are less than the judges. So what it tells us is the first on the list is the justices and magistrate. The last place for a common man is the judiciary. And what we're seeing is our judiciary is at the top ranking of collecting bribe. That is what it says. That's to say we are in a dilemma. And if we don't correct this, we will end up having a lawless country. Because, I mean, who do you approach? Because the land people are there, the customs or immigration are there. And then I've watched one Shamsuddin from the MBS talking about e-governance have sort of reduced the numbers. So the numbers were higher than this, right? But because of e-governance, and the examples he gave on e-governance is the invention of the e-passports that we're seeing today, and so on and so forth. So the reality is there is a problem. We're heading to where we're not supposed to be heading, and then people are losing patience, right? And then there is nobody coming out to say these are the problems. And the biggest question here is, we have these numbers, whether they are correct or not correct, we have them as a number. What are we going to do with the report? As any government agency or government, maybe Ministry of Justice or ICPC or EFCC or Office of the National Security Advisor or any other person come out to say, okay, we have received this report from NBS and this is what we're going to do. Investigation will be carried on and something will be done. Nothing till today. As I speak to you now, if you go on the website of MBS, that report is not highlighted there. And even if you click the link to that report, it takes you to another thing. So what are we saying, right? We are not telling people these are the methodologies. We are not telling people this is why we did not touch other sector and then we hampered on other sectors. Then there is a problem to that question. I think that these are the most surprising thing for me.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would agree with you that the NBS needs to clarify on these aspects that you've raised. It would give more credibility to this report, no doubt. But I also want you to speak, when we talk about, corruption across Nigeria and the fight against corruption. The EFCC does play its role in arresting public officials every now and then, mostly in government, on politicians and the likes. But, how can we fight corruption, to this level that we are seeing now, where almost every institution across the country seems to have the same plague, the same cancer of bribery? It almost feels like it's the normal Nigerian way of life, because if you look at this, this feels like it's normal across Nigeria that you would pay a bribe or you would seek a bribe. So how can we bring the corruption fight to this level, aside the once in a while threatening of former governors, that the EFCC does? How can we bring it to this level where institutions can also be cleaned up?
All right, so first of all, I think we need to look at legitimacy of whatever we do, and we need to put out the report of these things that we've done. A lot of cases of EFCC has been heard in the news, and then the case went south. I can confidently tell you that there are numbers of ministers, numbers of governors that have been in court, right? And then there have been some cases like the Yaya Bello case, the former governor of Kogi State, as well as the Zania Lisselmado case, the Sadia case, and then the Beta Edu's investigation case. None of it is in the public. So once if there is no trust between the citizen and government, then there is a problem, right? And then the independency of these agencies and then the independency of the judiciary is very paramount. And once if we don't see that independency playing out, because if you look at what is happening with the anti-corrupt agencies, most of the people that having cases with EFCC and what have you are not from the present administration, the administration in power. So I'm not saying this thing have started now. I'm saying it has been like that. Anybody that is not in power, will always be the one that will be in question. I'll give you an example with our current Minister of Aviation and then the current Senate President. There have been a time where our current Minister of Aviation was the one prosecuting the Senate President. But what do we have today? He is the Senate President, and this person is now the Minister of Aviation. And I'll give you another example. The person that was sworn in, I think last week or thereabout, a lady, a former member House of Assembly in
Lagos. I remember.
We have a petition against her of diverting some funds, COVID funds, COVID palliative to a private use, celebrate her birthday and what have you. We had that petition for over a year ago now. Till today, no response from ICPC or whatsoever. So the reality is, and today the person is being appointed to serve as a pension something. I can't really pinpoint the office. What are you saying? And this is someone that will be spearheading people's citizens' money, citizens that have spent maybe 65 to 35 years in service, 65 years of age or 35 years of service. And that person that has a petition against herself or a questionable character of diverting public thing to a private individual. So the reality is we have to look at the independency of the anti-corrupt agencies, the independency of judiciary, and then we need to reshape our mindset around public sector, because a lot of time the other sectors that people do go into, like teaching and other things, a lot of people go there because they have not got job elsewhere, right? Because the infrastructural development is porous. There is no teacher, maybe professional training, and then the remuneration is also something to question about. So I think we have a lot of things to do when it comes to fighting corruption. We have to look at the legitimacy of how these people are being employed. We have to look at their credibility as a source, and then also look at the services they do provide, so that we can see if we can be able to hold them accountable or not.
Yeah, obviously, there's work that needs to be done from government side, and of course, from the average Nigerian side also. And I'm sure many people would agree with you that it tells a very, very sad, paints a very sad picture if the highest bribery cases are from the judiciary in Nigeria today. That is very, very frightening. And can you also speak in 1 minute on the mentality of the average Nigerian and how we can stop the average Nigerian from thinking that he must give or take a bribe?
First of all, I think we need to imbibe the culture of trust, and then we need to trust our system. We need to follow the system, because as it stands now, a lot of people, if you are standing, maybe following traffic lights, someone will pass and you'll be thinking that, oh, am I mad? Or am I something else for observing or doing what is right? I think we need to remove that culture. Everything starts with us. One people, one nation. We need to imbibe the culture of loving each other. And then we need, from our political side, we need to imbibe the culture of politics of ideology. Ideology in the sense that if someone does not belong to the class of ideology you belong to, you now at least look for a class that you belong to as an ideology. We need to have an ideal and a politics of ideology. We need to trust our system, and the people in government need to put ownership of governance to people, not just for them. And we need to really look at issues that has to do with this transparency and accountability, check and balances in governance. That will now push us to a greater height, and we can run a race together and win the race together. Yeah. That's from me.
And hopefully also have systems placed in in these agencies and across the country that reduce the ability of a person to either give or take a bribe. If we had certain systems in place, and also proper auditing of these ministries and agencies.
And punitive measures as well, because if people do that, if they partook in bribery, that there'll be grave punishment, because it's even so rife now that people will not, for your contract to go through, you have to pay a certain sum. People get jobs, will have to pay a certain sum. It's become the norm, and it's really rather sad. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We've come to the end of today's show. We thank you for your time with us. We'll be back again same time tomorrow, but until we come your way again, remember the conversations continue on social media at News Central TV as we're streaming on all our platforms. We have news coming up at 9 a.m., but thank you for joining us. I am Olive Modi.
And I am Osaugi Ogbonwa, wishing you a very brilliant Monday ahead, and see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.